Shadow was a young wolf who had spent most of his life alone. Every day was a struggle to survive, and every season brought a new challenge. One autumn, while wandering through the forest hungry and exhausted, he collapsed beside a stream, believing he might not have the strength to continue. But fate had other plans. An old stag named Elijah found him there. Elijah was known throughout the forest for his wisdom, kindness, and gentle heart. Instead of walking away, he offered Shadow food, shelter, and friendship. For the first time in many years, Shadow felt cared for. As the days passed, Elijah taught him how to find food, survive in the wilderness, and see the beauty hidden within the forest. Together they explored valleys, crossed rivers, and watched sunsets from the highest cliffs. Slowly, a true friendship formed between them. Shadow began to see Elijah not just as a friend, but as family. Yet as autumn faded, winter approached with frightening speed. The air grew colder, the trees became bare, and food became harder to find. Like many animals, Elijah began preparing for the harsh season ahead. Unknown to Shadow, he secretly gathered berries, roots, nuts, and medicinal plants, storing them beneath a giant fallen tree. He worked tirelessly, collecting enough food not only for himself, but also for Shadow. He wanted them both to survive the winter together. One day, while searching for food, Shadow accidentally discovered Elijah's hidden storage. His eyes widened as he stared at the enormous supply. There was enough food to survive even the harshest winter. At first he felt grateful, but then fear began whispering into his mind. What if winter lasted longer than expected? What if there wasn't enough? What if Elijah changed his mind? The more Shadow thought about it, the stronger his fear became. Soon fear transformed into greed. One cold night, while the forest slept beneath the moonlight, Shadow returned to the hidden storage. His heart told him to stop, but his fear pushed him forward. One by one he carried the supplies away and hid them for himself. By morning, the storage was completely empty. When Elijah discovered what had happened, sadness filled his eyes. He quietly asked Shadow if he knew anything about the missing food. But Shadow looked away and lied. Elijah said nothing more. He simply turned and walked away. His silence hurt more than anger ever could. Then winter arrived in full force. Snow covered the forest, rivers froze solid, food disappeared beneath thick layers of ice. Elijah grew weaker each day as hunger slowly drained his strength. Meanwhile, Shadow sat surrounded by the stolen food he had taken. He was warm, he was safe. Yet every meal tasted bitter. Every night, guilt kept him awake. He remembered Elijah's kindness and felt ashamed of what he had done. Then one day, a monstrous blizzard swept across the forest. Winds howled through the trees and snow filled the sky. Shadow became trapped in the storm. Lost and terrified, he struggled through the freezing wilderness until disaster struck. Hidden beneath the snow was a deep, icy ravine. Before he could react, the ground disappeared beneath him. He fell hard onto the frozen rocks below. Injured, starving, and unable to escape, Shadow lay there alone. For the first time, he truly understood the consequences of his choices. He thought about the friend he had betrayed. He thought about the trust he had broken. And as the storm raged above him, he believed his story was about to end. But far away, Elijah discovered Shadow's tracks disappearing into the blizzard. Despite his own weakness and despite the betrayal, Elijah chose compassion. He followed the tracks through the storm, battling freezing winds and deep snow. Eventually he found the ravine and looked down to see Shadow barely conscious beneath the ice. Shadow could hardly believe his eyes. The friend he had betrayed had come to save him. Without hesitation, Elijah climbed down and helped the injured wolf. Through pain and exhaustion, he guided Shadow back to shelter. There, beside a small fire, Elijah did something Shadow never expected. He shared his last remaining food, the final food he had left. At that moment, the weight of guilt became unbearable. Tears filled Shadow's eyes as he confessed everything. He admitted stealing the food, he admitted lying, he admitted allowing fear and greed to destroy the friendship they had built together. He expected Elijah to be angry, he expected rejection. Instead, Elijah placed a comforting hoof on his shoulder and forgave him. Not because the betrayal didn't hurt, but because forgiveness was stronger than resentment. As the days passed, the storm finally ended. Golden sunlight returned to the forest, and hope returned with it. Together, Elijah and Shadow walked through the fresh snow, their friendship stronger than before. Shadow had learned a lesson he would never forget. Fear can lead us down dark paths. Greed can destroy trust. But true friendship, genuine kindness, and forgiveness have the power to heal even the deepest wounds. And from that day forward, Shadow never forgot the friend who saved his life twice, once from hunger and once from becoming someone he never wanted to be.